Welcome to this edition of the Talk of Simsbury. My name is Dominique Avery. We're going to focus today on the Simsbury Public Library, specifically on two of the hardworking and talented people who work there. This show is in two parts. Part one focuses on Connecticut Open House Day on June 10th and what the library has planned. In part two, you'll get a chance to meet the new head of Children's Services. First, I want to welcome Reference Librarian Joan Nagy. Regular viewers have seen her on our Headlines program, but we've invited her here today to share what she has planned for June 10th. That's the day that the State Tourism Department celebrates and showcases local tourist attractions around the state, and they offer special programming in those days. And Simsbury has a lot to offer. We were officially founded in 1670 as the 21st town in the state. And now our history is what the library is focusing on for that Connecticut Open House Day. Welcome, Joan.
Thank you, Dominique.
So you're focusing on one aspect of the history. What time period are you focusing on that day?
We're going to be looking at the Revolutionary War and Simsbury's participation in the Revolutionary War.
You know, I think there are a lot of people who doesn't occur to them that we were founded in 1670, so we were part of the revolution. So, how are you making these presentations? Are you having a speaker or?
Yep, we're going to have a lecture by Dr. Mark Williams. It's called The Militiamen, Evangelicals, and Other Independent Thinkers, American Revolution Comes to Simsbury.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? What's he going to be talking about?
He's going to be talking about how ordinary farmers and tradespeople were transformed during this period, like in the late 1800s, mid to late 1800s, how they were transformed into rebels and patriots and citizens of our state and citizens of a new country. And these would be covering the towns which are now Simsbury, Granby, East Granby, Canton, and Bloomfield.
So have you talked with him about, do you know anything about what he's going to be talking about? Can you give us a little foreshadowing, or are you going to be hearing for the first time?
I'll be hearing it for the first time. I do know Mark, but he's an excellent speaker and a great historian. He's been a historian for 40 years. And he currently teaches at the Loomis Chaffee School.
So did you know him already so you could find? I was just sort of wondering, how did you find this expert?
Well, he wrote a book, which I'm familiar with. It's called A Tempest in a Small Town. And that book, I believe, focuses on Granby. But I knew him from that book, but I knew him also because our children knew each other. Uh-huh.
So let's talk a little bit about how this, so you have this lecture. What time is that and where is it?
The lecture is going to be at 10:30 in the library in the program room.
That's on June 10th. That's on Open House Day, right?
That's right. So we'll be staying in the program room for the first part of the program.
So he's speaking there. I remember last year, didn't you have a Theodore Roosevelt?
We did. The mailman was surprised to see him walking over from the Simsbury Inn. He came in and said, "I just saw Theodore Roosevelt."
So this lecturer is not going to be in costume.
No, I think Mark's going to be wearing street clothes.
So he'll speak half an hour, 45 minutes?
Yeah. We have it planned to go from 10:30 to 11:30 to allow people time to ask questions after he's done.
And then you have a couple of other things planned. What happens next?
We do. Well, we're going to have lunch, we'll be providing the lunch. If it's not raining, we're planning to eat lunch on the grounds of the Simsbury Historical Society. If it's raining, we'll stay there in the program room for that time.
And last year it did rain.
Torrents
of rain.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, so let's keep our fingers
but
crossed.
We did everything anyway. And then after lunch, we're planning to head to the Simsbury Cemetery. Candy Simon, who is the groundskeeper there and also very interested in history, is researching the Revolutionary War soldiers who are buried there, including Noah Phelps, who in himself is a great character from the Revolutionary War, very from Simsbury, and he was the one that made it possible for us to capture Fort Ticonderoga.
Uh-huh.
So that'll be going on rain or shine. It's going to be a self-guided tour, but Candy's going to be there with volunteers to help people.
So the older graves are at the beginning of the cemetery?
Yes, they're in the first 5 rows. That's what we're going to be looking at specifically.
I'm always surprised at how few Simsbury residents have ever walked into the cemetery. It's extraordinarily interesting.
It's very interesting. In fact, the first time I walked in there, I found out that my relatives were in the first row. I had no idea. I moved to the town where my relatives...
You didn't know?
I had no idea, and there they were.
So, is your maiden name something different?
My mother's name was Cornish,
uh-huh.
and on East Weetog Street is one of the houses that my relative built.
Wow, and you didn't know that?
I had no idea.
That's fascinating. I actually had I have a friend who lives in England who's English originally, and she came here, and I told her that there was something, her last name was Higley. I told her something about the Higley coin, and she was thrilled. She did genealogical research. She went to the cemetery, looked for,
wow.
Anyway.
It's so interesting.
Okay, so the self-guided tour is now at the cemetery. And then?
Then we're moving to the meeting house, which is on the grounds of the Simsbury Historical Society. And we have Barbara Washer. She's very involved in theater and teaching and performing, and she's going to be leading a skit that was written by Doug Crampton. It's going to be looking at one particular day in 1775 when Simsbury decided to join the Revolution. And people in the audience will be able to take parts, have parts, and if you don't want a specific part, you can be part of the rabble-rousers in the audience, just cheering people on or showing your displeasure with what somebody's saying. So it should be a lot of fun. I think it'll be fun.
It's sort of like modern town halls right now.
Exactly.
Right? In front of Congress people who are experiencing some backlash.
Yeah.
I think that sounds like tremendous fun.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really fun.
So does this whole event cost anything?
No, it'll be free to anyone who comes.
And what about lunch?
That will be free also.
So it's a fabulous day. So how do people sign up for this?
They'll be able to go to our website, simsburylibrary.info, and click on events, and it'll be on our event calendar.
So, and is there a limit to how many people can do it? Or?
I'm still working on that, but based on the size of the meeting house, we might have to limit it to 90. If we have 2 showings of the skit. If we have fewer people, we'll be able to do it in 1 showing, but there are limitations on how many people can cram into the meeting house. So
I think it's important that people in Simsbury know that this is going to be advertised and talked about statewide. So
correct.
If they want to do it, they're hearing about it earlier than other people, so they should sign up.
That's right.
So I am going to sort of interview myself here a little bit as we talk about it, because I'm involved in the tourism committee, and there is another way of enjoying this day aside from the planned events. Mm-hmm. First of all, the tourism committee is opening its visitor center that day, and we're going to be offering coffee and lemonade and cookies, as well as 3 postcards, Simsbury sort of historical things, the river, lots of interesting postcards as a come on to people.
Ooh.
And we're also going to be there and available to tell people about kinds of things that they can do on their own, because not everybody wants to do a planned day.
Right.
So we're going to encourage people to take our cell phone tour. Have you ever done that, Joan?
I've never done it.
So we have this cell phone tour. It's at 11 spots, historical sites in this 9-block area. Right.
In the library.
And it's actually probably, the town is probably going to cancel it because of budget issues. It costs a substantial amount of money, or $1,500 a year. And so this is our last chance to get people to take it. We're trying to figure out a way that we can keep it going somehow that's cheaper.
I better get out there and do it.
Yes. So yeah, they were going to cancel it at the end of May, and I said, "Oh no, I'm advertising it." So people can take that cell phone tour at each stop, and there are 11 stops. Each stop has a map, and they can call the phone and then learn something interesting about the history. And one of the lesser-known stops is the Redstone Courtyard.
It's so beautiful.
So that's the one that's not on Hot Meadow. So they have to walk down Gallagher Way. But the interesting thing there is that Redstone Pub and this store, this sort of antiques decorating store in the house and through the garden, are both located in the old stables and servants' quarters of the old Darling House. That was a wood frame house it used to be sort of where Fitzgerald's is. There was a huge 35-acre estate. Anyway, so you can go see that and see how Simsbury uses these historical buildings. And then you can walk through the parking lot and actually go to the newer Darling House, which was built when the first one burned. And Bill Selig now has a studio there, a jewelry studio, an art studio.
That's the Darling House?
Yeah, that's the Darling House, which is now the, I'm blanking on it.
Named after
Cannon Building, the Cannon
Dr.
Building,
Cannon.
because when the Darlings finally died, they wanted it to be a medical building. So they have renovated the studio, and he's going to have people talking about it. And they're also going to open the door into the living room next door, which is now used as a doctor's waiting room. And if you're not a patient of one of the doctors there, you've never seen it. Anyway, it's an interesting building. So that's something else that people can do. And for your guys who get lunch given to them, they can have lunch. But for people who do this on their own, they can go to one of our restaurants, and so many of them downtown are in historic buildings. Plan B in a railroad station, and now I'm blanking on the rest. Oh, Metro B's in the 1820 house. In any case, I think we have a really interesting day planned. So let's review again your presentation, and that they have to sign up. Mine, they do not have to sign up, but
Correct.
Just go over quickly. We have about a minute left.
So at 10:30, militiamen, evangelicals, and other independent thinkers, a lecture by Dr. Mark Williams in the library program room. 11:45 to 12:30, lunch on the grounds of the Simsbury Historical Society. In case it rains, we'll be in the program room still. 12:30 to 1 is the self-guided tour of the Revolutionary War soldiers' graves. And then we go across the street at 1 o'clock to the Simsbury Historical Society meeting house for the beginnings of the Revolutionary War, Simsbury's version of it.
Well, it sounds fascinating, your planned program and our unplanned program, and I'm hoping a lot of people come to town.
I hope so. The great package.
It's a great package, and I'm hoping this year we have a lot more people who are signed, sort of groups that are doing things. I think the Genealogical Library is also going to be open that day. In any case, there are a lot of things going on, and I'm so glad you shared it with me.
Thank you for having me.
Now we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, you'll get to meet the new head of the Simsbury Children's Library. So don't go away. It's just going to be a few seconds. Welcome back to part 2 of the Talk of Simsbury. My guest for this segment is the Simsbury Public Library's new head of Children's Services. Although Stephanie Prato joined the library in February, if you're a regular viewer of SCTV's Headlines program, you've already seen her on TV. She jumped right in. But today, you'll get a chance to know more about her. Thanks so much for joining me, Stephanie.
Thank you for having me.
So I'd like to let our viewers get to know a little bit more about you. Tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and then how you got into library work. So where'd you come from?
Sure. I moved to this area from Syracuse area, so I was working at the Fayetteville Free Library, which is a suburb of Syracuse. And as you said, I started in February, and I did my master's degree at the Syracuse University Library School there. So I kind of did my master's program, and then I wound up staying in that area after I completed that degree.
So what made you be interested in library work? I mean, in books. I mean, you're a young woman. Books are just not that high on the list of things that young people love these days.
Well, I mean, I think the library is all about people and about community. So I am a reader, and I was an English major, and I do love books, and I love recommending books to people, but being a librarian is about being a community member and connecting people with ideas and with other people and with the resources that they need. And I think it's very much a service job. And so I love being able to help people with their needs and to be there to greet them when they come in the door, and to make sure the library is fulfilling the library fulfills entertainment needs in addition to the educational support that we provide to our schools and our school libraries. So there's really a lot to it, and I love every aspect of it.
So I know your boss, Lisa Kareem, also comes from upstate New York. How did another person from New York? Did you know her ahead of time, or just?
I actually did not know her ahead of time, but she posted the position to the New York Library listserv, so it went out through the Connecticut Library listserv and the New York Library kind of list of librarians. So I saw it that way, and it's actually, I'm closer to family here in Connecticut than I was in upstate New York, so I'm excited to be a little closer. They're still in New York, but it's just over the Danbury border, so in Westchester, so I'm closer now.
So what job did you have there?
I was the director of Play to Learn services. So it was a similar position. It was a smaller library, but I was in charge of the early literacy program and our children's programs and our collections in the children's department.
So what kind of process did you have to go through to get the job? Did you have to come here for interviews? Did you do it through FaceTime or?
Yes, my first interview was via Skype, and then for my second interview I came down and was able to meet everyone in person, which is wonderful. I got to see the library and meet some of the staff, and I stayed at the Simsbury Inn, which was lovely, so I got a little taste of the town and the community, which is so important to really find the right fit for your community. So this community is very supportive of the library, and it's one of the reasons why I'm really excited to be here is the support and the vision and the willingness to try new things.
It has a fierce Friends of the Simsbury Library group, very dedicated people.
We have a wonderful friends group and a wonderful board.
I'm a good deal older than you, and when I loved libraries too, but libraries when I was growing up were books only. Mm-hmm. So the children's department is, if any grown-ups or grandparents are watching this and you've never been, you really need to go because it is so different. Tell us a little bit about what's there.
Yes. Well, books are still very important to us, and it's a primary way that we're able to connect kids with new ideas, and that's one way that they learn about the world. But there are many other ways that children learn about the world, and we try to support all of them. So one way is through play. So we have many, many opportunities for children to play in the library, and we have play stations kind of all around the children's room, and they're designed to help build certain early literacy skills. So for our preschool children, when they're playing at our puppet theater, they're practicing language and they're speaking, and that imaginative play is allowing them to learn about the world. We also have our train table and doll houses and all kinds of things that allows them to play. We also have technology now that we're incorporating into the library, so we do have iPads and things that we encourage parents to use with their children, which is another resource for them, just like books. It's just a different format for them to experience and learn about different things. I find some of the digital resources are particularly helpful for language learning and things like that, and songs and music, which are important literacy skills.
And people can still borrow books and borrow music and...
Yes, they can borrow books, they can borrow music. We have, I talked about in our headline, some of our special collections that we have, like our grandparent kits, which is a whole bag of all those things put together. So we have the books, but we also have music and toys all in one place that you can grab and check out. And in addition to our collections, we have a really strong calendar of programs because we know that a lot of learning is experiential. So we want to provide opportunities for children and adults to do that kind of hands-on learning in addition to reading about subjects in books.
So what kind of programs do you actually have?
We have a number of early literacy programs, so those are for our younger preschool sets. So we have our traditional story times. We also have some wonderful kind of iterations on our story time programs. So Story Stars, for example, is a story time program where we bring in live animals. So we read a story about a certain type of animal, like maybe a snake or I think rabbits this month. And then we actually have the animals. So you have that literacy component and the participatory hands-on component where they get to actually see that animal and meet them in addition to learning about their habitat and those types of things. And for school-age children, we're also working on expanding our STEM and STEAM offerings. So that's science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And we're doing that in partnership with our Innovators Workshop. So we're looking for ways to get kids to do hands-on building and tinkering. We're utilizing equipment like the 3D printers to allow them to imagine something and then fabricate it.
Was that something that you had experience with already, the 3D printers?
Yes, that is something that I bring to this position. The Fayetteville Free Library, where I previously worked, is actually the first library in the U.S. to have a makerspace with public access to 3D printing. And it was a large part of the library services that we offered. So I'm excited that Simsbury is passionate about STEAM and making as well. And I'm excited to be able to offer those opportunities for children of all different ages in addition to adults.
So you also have Lego programs.
We do, yes.
And I have been actually shocked by, my daughter had Legos, but she's in her mid-30s now, and the explosion of what's happened to Legos. For anybody my age, it's just unbelievable.
Legos are they're still a staple, and kids love them.
They're a staple, but they've grown in things that are available now, and it's so much more than they were 25 years ago, I think.
Yes.
So what kind of Lego things do you do?
We have a program that we offer every Saturday called Lego Engineers, and so it's geared towards that kind of building and tinkering and experimental process. So kids are invited to come into the library. It's kind of more of a drop-in style program, and they can build things with the Legos that we have provided, and then we encourage them to actually label it with their name and what their creation is and display it for the community to see. So hopefully they're building something cool, and then they're inspiring other kids to come and build something similar or something different. But it's great that they're able to put their work out and share it with the community.
So one other thing you have that I noticed when my grandson was under 2 was sort of a little, or a space for younger toddlers, a private space, because they get overwhelmed, I guess, with sort of more older toddlers, right?
We do. So one of the spaces towards the back of our children's room is called the baby room, and so it's designed for babies and up to toddlers around age 2, and it's filled with all kinds of toys and games and puzzles and things for them to manipulate and play with. And it is kind of set back away from some of the busier areas of the library. And so the idea is that if a parent needs a few minutes to take some quiet time in the back, or a child is, like you said, overstimulated, right, that's an area, of course, there's a lot for them to do in that space. There's plenty of toys, and but that's another way that we are supporting that kind of hands-on learning, so they're able to do that.
So is the library so you came in February, which was deep winter. So is it busier in the children's room in the winter? I mean, it's like a place to go in the winter if your child is not in preschool in some way.
That's true. We have our ebbs and flows. I was actually expecting the spring break, this recent April break, to be very busy, and it was not. I think a lot of people went away on vacation, and we had the most beautiful weather, so I think a lot of people were outside. Yeah. But summer is by far our busiest season when kids are out of school and families are coming to the library. There are many families that we might see primarily during the summer because they have other commitments during the school year. So we're very excited for summer. We're already getting ready for summer reading and getting all of our programs together, and our program information, registration information will be available about mid-May. So we are gearing up, and I'm really looking forward to it.
So there are actually some people who don't use the library very often. I mean, there's a calendar. Just go through how people can find out what's actually going there. They can sign up for, anyway, just tell
Sure.
me.
I would encourage them. Our calendar is on the website, simsburylibrary.info, and we have very full calendars, as I'm sure you know, of adult programs, business programs, teen programs, and children's programs, which they can all access from the website. We also try to promote our programs through opportunities like this, but also through a newsletter that we send out, so they can sign up for that on the website, that we send out through email. And we try to post things on Facebook, and we really try to push the word out as much as possible, because the things that we offer are free and they're open to the community, so we want as many people to be aware of them and to utilize them as possible.
And so far you've been here a couple of months. What has been your reaction? Are you happy? You're not going to tell me that you weren't, but
no, it's a wonderful community, and as I've said, everyone's really supportive of the library. But there's also just a really strong community feeling here. People are really kind, even outside of the library, in the grocery store, and at the gas station. I recently had to have some work done on my car, and just the nicest mechanic I've ever met.
Well, that's nice to hear.
It's a lovely community, so I'm very happy to be here.
So do you have any special things? Did you bring along any projects? Or are you just getting to know the library? Or
I'm focusing on expanding our collaboration with the Innovators Workshop, because I'm really excited about the technology and the equipment that we have access to in that space, and I want to make sure as many people are trained to fully utilize it as possible.
So we have about a minute left. Anything that I didn't ask you about that you want to share with us? Plans?
I would encourage people to look for our summer reading sign up, which, as I said, we should have that ready about mid-May. It's a really great calendar of events, and we're very excited. We're doing we've always done library-wide summer reading, but we're really pushing it for the whole family. So we're encouraging children and parents and grandparents all to read during the summer. So anybody can participate. It can be a whole family project, and we'd like to see that kind of intergenerational participation this summer. And we're working really hard to have something for everybody. So I'm looking forward to that.
So if anybody wants to stop by the library, where are you? You're in the children's library? Are you floating around? Or?
Sometimes I'm floating around, but mostly you could find me in the children's room, and I look forward. I hope people will come in and say hello.
Well, it's been delightful. I'm so happy that you came to talk with us. I loved your grandparents' kit piece on headlines, and so thank you for coming. Thank Joan Nagy also for coming and sharing all the information that she shared with us about what's going on in Simsbury for Connecticut Open House Day on June 10th. And you should sign up early, because other people are going to be signing up as well. If you missed any portion of this show, you can always find it on our website at simsburytv.org. I'm Dominique Avery. See you next time for the Talk of Simsbury.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.